Hello, what we're going to be walking through in this video is we're going to write a graphical application describing an earthquake. We're going to supply a text field and button for entering the strength of the earthquake and display the earthquake description in a label. So let's go into JGrasp and look at the actual code here. So the first thing we're going to look at is our earthquake class. So what this class does is just describes the effect of an earthquake. We have one instance variable called Richter, and within our constructor, when we create an earthquake, basically what gets passed in is the magnitude of the earthquake. And then there's a get description, which returns a description of the effect of the earthquake. So based on the Richter scale, if an earthquake is greater than or equal to an 8, most structures fall. If the Richter is greater than or equal 7, many buildings are destroyed. Greater than or equal to 6, many buildings considerably damaged, some collapse. Greater than or equal to 4.5, damage to poorly constructed buildings, else no destruction of buildings. So basically what this does is based on the magnitude that gets passed in when the earthquake object is created, then the get description will return the effects of the earthquake. So that's the earthquake class we're going to be working with. The next class we're going to look at is our earthquake viewer. So let's just go ahead and open that up. So what the viewer class does is renders a frame for our GUI application that describes the effect of an earthquake. So when the UI initially comes up, the initial Richter reading that will get passed in is 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to call our earthquake frame class, passing in an initial reading of 0. And then we're going to set the frame's title, which is earthquake effect. We'll set resizable to false. We'll set the default close operation to exit on close in the JFrame. So when we hit the red X, the frame will close, and then we go ahead and make the frame visible. So what we're going to look at next is the actual earthquake frame.java file. So let's go ahead and double click on that. So lines 1 through 8 are all the various imports that we need to do to go ahead and use javax.swing. So basically our earthquake frame extends the JFrame. So what we have is we have the instance variables for the class. The first two are the frame width and the frame height. And then we have instance variables for our J label and J text field to hold the magnitude label and magnitude field. We're going to have our button, which is our condition button. We're going to have a result label, we'll have our panel, and then we'll have our earthquake, which is called quake. So basically what we have here is we have our constructor starting on line 30, which creates an earthquake frame using the specified magnitude as the initial magnitude. So like we saw in the earthquake viewer, the first magnitude that gets passed in is a 0. So what we do is we create the initial earthquake object with the initial magnitude of 0. And then after that, we create the results label, which is a new J label. And then after that, the first method we call is to create labels and text fields. So if we scroll on down to that field, we have a field width of 10. Then what we do is we get the description based on an initial magnitude of 0 and display the effect. So we'll, based on our quake instance, we'll go ahead and get that description. And then we'll go ahead and display that information in our results label. And then we need to create the input label and field. So the next two items are the magnitude and then actually what the the value the user is going to specify with the field width of 10. The next method that we're going to go ahead and call is our create button method. So let's scroll on down to that. So what this does is it creates a JButton component of the frame. So the first line on line 84 creates our JButton that specifies get earthquake description. So that's the text that will be on the button. And then we need to create a quake listener object. And after that object is created, we're going to add the listener object to the button. So once the button is pressed, the listener object will go ahead and perform the action performed. So what we have up above starting on line 55 is our button listener class for the button. So it's called Quake Listener. It'll implement our action listener. So when the button is clicked, its action perform method reads the user input from the text field using the getText method of our JTextField class. And the getText method, what that does is it returns a string object. So if we go ahead and look at the code in our action performed on line 69, basically what we're doing there is we're using our getText method on our JTextField class to get the text that was typed in. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and parse it and use the parse double method, and then we'll go ahead and store it in a double called magnitude. We're going to create a new earthquake object with the specified magnitude. So basically what that'll be is it'll be whatever the user types in. It'll go ahead and create that object, and then it'll get the earthquake effect and add it to our results label. So that is our Quake Listener class. So let's scroll back up. We have a create panel, which is the last method that we have here. So if we scroll down to create the panel, what it does is just creates the panel and adds the GUI components to the panel. So we'll go ahead, create a new JPanel on line 97, and then we'll go ahead and add the 4 GUI components to our panel. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add the panel to our earthquake frame. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and run the program. So again, when it initially comes up, the magnitude will be, the initial value will be 0. And then based on what the user inputs and the button is pressed, then we'll go into our earthquake.java and we'll get the description and return that description into our results label. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and compile each one of these classes. So our earthquake Java, go ahead, compile our earthquake frame, and then I will compile my earthquake viewer. And then what I need to do is I need to go ahead and make sure I have my earthquake viewer selected, and this is where our main method is found, so I will go ahead and kick that off. So you see this very, very, very small panel. Since my resolution is so high, it's really hard to read. We have a magnitude text field that will enter the information, and we have our button, and right now no destruction of buildings since it was a 0. If I go ahead and type in 8.0, we'll get most structures fail. Go ahead, type in a 9.0. Most structures fail. For the actual description, let's go ahead and type in something else, a 7. We get many buildings destroyed. We'll type in a 6. Many buildings considerably damaged, some collapse. We'll type in 5. and effect damage to poorly constructed buildings. So, and then if we go ahead and close it out, it'll go ahead and close our window for us. So basically that's what I wanted to cover in this video, is to kind of walk you through an example, creating frame class and then populating that frame class with various GUI components and displaying the information. So that's all I have for this video, so I will talk to you later.